All right, let's dive right into a really fascinating idea about the Giza Plateau. What if I told you the whole thing, we're talking every pyramid, every chamber, wasn't just a collection of buildings, but was actually built from a single, secret mathematical blueprint?
You know, when you look at an overhead shot of the Giza pyramids, their layout always seems a little off, right? They're not in a perfectly straight line. They're not symmetrical. So the big question has always been, was that just the most convenient way to build them? Or is there something else going on? A hidden message, maybe? A design that we're only just now starting to crack?
And hey, this isn't some new age theory. People have been asking this question for a long time. I mean, all the way back in 1883, this guy Flinders Petrie did the first really precise survey of the area, and even then, the debate started. Was there a master plan for the whole plateau? And that's exactly the mystery we're gonna unravel today. Okay, so where do you even begin to tackle a question that big? Well, the researcher behind this paper, Wim Varhart, had a really clever idea. He said, let's just forget about the middle pyramid for a second. Instead, he focused only on the relationship between the two outer pyramids, the big one, Cheops, and the smaller one, Menkaure. And that right there, that's our first big clue. Now, check this out. We've got data from two super detailed surveys, one by Petrie way back in 1883 and another by Glenn Dash in 2015. That's more than 130 years apart. And just look at those numbers. They are almost identical. We're talking differences of just a few centimeters over these huge distances. That kind of consistency is incredible. It tells you right away that we're not dealing with random chance here. This layout was deliberate.
So what does all that precise measurement point to? Something simple, but also kind of profound. When you map out the positions of Cheops and Menkaure, you get a nearly perfect rectangle. That's it. That's the first major sign that we're looking at a very intentional design.
Right, because you don't accidentally create a perfect rectangle on this kind of massive scale. It means there were rules, a system. It's like finding the architect's signature. So the next logical step is to dig into the dimensions of that rectangle and see if there's a specific mathematical relationship, a secret ratio hidden inside. And the way this was found is actually pretty cool. It comes down to 3 steps. First, you measure the perpendicular distance between the diagonals that connect the corners of Cheops and Menkaure, okay? Then, step 2, you just measure the simple vertical distance between the centers of those two pyramids. Easy enough? And then for the final step, you just compare those two numbers. And this is where things get really wild. The ratio between those two distances, it turns out to be 2 times pi divided by 5. Yeah, that pi, the famous mathematical constant, 3.14159, and so on. It looks like it's literally built into the ground plan of the entire Giza Plateau. Just, wow. Okay, but let's pump the brakes for a second. This is the point where a healthy dose of skepticism is a good thing. I mean, really, a ratio with pi? Could that possibly be on purpose, or is it just a massive, incredible coincidence? Did the numbers just happen to line up this way?
Well, according to this theory, the knockout punch, the proof that this is not a coincidence, isn't found out on the huge, sprawling plateau. To find it, we have to zoom way, way in. We're going deep inside the Great Pyramid, into the tiny granite rooms at its very heart, the King's Chamber.
And this is really the core of the entire argument. We're about to compare 2 completely different scales. We have the macro, the huge architectural layout of the entire plateau. And then we have the micro, the design of a couple of small, cramped rooms. And the claim is, they're built using the exact same blueprint. So let's start with the big picture, the macro level. Remember that weird perpendicular distance we talked about, the one measured across the plateau? Well, that distance is 928.7 meters, okay? Just lock that number in your brain for a second, 928.7. Now, get ready for the bombshell. When you go inside the King's Chamber and take a very specific measurement from the middle of the antechamber to the far wall, you know what you get? 9.287 meters. It is exactly 1/100th of the plateau's measurement, a perfect 100-to-1 scale. Now that is the kind of thing that's almost impossible to explain away as a coincidence. So why on earth would they repeat that specific number? Well, the answer seems to be tied to a famous ancient geometry problem called squaring the circle.
The goal is to draw a square that has the exact same area as a given circle. It's a puzzle you literally cannot solve without knowing pi really, really well. And what's absolutely nuts is that the dimensions of the antechamber seem to be a physical, built-in solution to that very problem.
And Wim Verhart, the author of this paper, really sums it all up perfectly. Here's what he says. All these coincidences suggest that the architects applied a repeated modular framework at different scales, based on fractions and multiples of the royal cubit, always starting from the number pi. In other words, it's one system, based on pi, used for everything from the massive to the microscopic. Okay, let's step back. If this is all true, if this unified, pi-based blueprint is real, what does that actually tell us about the people who built these things? I mean, does this make them advanced mathematicians in the way we think of them today? Or were they something else? All right, let's just quickly recap the main takeaways here. First, we have a common design principle that connects the whole Giza Plateau to the tiny king's chamber inside. Second, that design is repeated at a jaw-droppingly precise 100-to-1 scale. Third, the whole system seems to be based on their unit of measurement for royal cubit and the constant pi. This points to an incredibly refined practical method of building, and it also suggests the builders had a way more precise value for pi than any of their written records would have us believe. It's a number they just weren't supposed to know yet. And that really leaves us with one last huge question to think about. If a design this complex, this mathematically sophisticated, could be hiding in plain sight at Giza for more than 4,000 years, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other secrets, what other mathematical codes might be locked away in ancient structures all over the world, just waiting for us to finally find the right key?